Hello, it's Dave Christie from Ankerstye here. Today I'm going to be spraying our interior lacquer 170865, but instead of using a conventional pot gun like I've done in the past, I'm going to be using our air-assisted airless pump to show people how to do it in probably a slightly more efficient way. We have had a few customers have asked us how to use their air-assisted airless pumps to spray this product, and we want to show how easy it can actually be achieved. So we have lots of customers who are using conventional spray apparatus such as pot guns, HVLP or pressure pots to spray the 170865 lacquer, and it works very nicely through most of those apparatus through some fairly small nozzle sizes, making it easier for our customers. For air assisted airless and airless, it's a little bit more tricky and you need to follow the appropriate advice. When you're spraying with air-assisted airless or airless pumps, the key factor is to use a small enough nozzle. What this does is it reduces the amount of turbulence in the film by atomising the product in a nice way. The nozzle sizes that you're looking for would be quite small, probably 6 thou or 8 thou with an airless pump setup, or 7 thou and maximum 9 thou with an air-assisted airless. Today we're going to use 7 thou with an air-assisted airless. Today we're going to be using our WeWere air-assisted airless pump. This is the gun from it. We're using, as I said, a 7 thou tip. On the WeWere pump, it's in metric, so the tip size says 418, 4 for 40 degree angle, and 18 for 0.18 mils, which is 7 thousandths of an inch. If you're using Kremlin, you want to use a 03. They'll probably say, blimey, that's a small tip, but it is a 03 in Kremlin speak for a 7 thou tip. So we're going to be using Ankerstye Interior Top Coat 170865. If I point to these two tins, we actually have the original version here, which many of you have already used possibly. It's quite a thin product. It goes through most apparatus very easily. One of its downsides in that is that it doesn't have that good a vertical film hold. So what we've done is we've modified the product. We can now offer one that is a thicker product. It's very difficult to see with this, but when I stir it, I can feel the resistance of the product. It's definitely thicker, and that is the product now coming off the stirring stick. It's still very fluid, it's still very nice flowing, gives a beautiful finish, but it is thicker, and it does show better film hold. The pressure we spray at will be influenced by a series of factors. There isn't a set pressure for a set nozzle size, for example. The reason for that is because it's influenced by the mesh of pump filter that you use and how easy it is to get the paint through the pump. So today I am spraying at around 4 bar, but that's because I'm using quite a fine filter in my gun to stop any debris or issues getting to the gun. And the viscosity of the product's a little bit thicker, so the flow is not quite as good as it is with the other product. 4 bar would be quite high with the non-thickened version of the 170865. There's a reasonable amount of film build on here. I've been able to deliver it very quickly because of air-assisted airless has a very good transfer efficiency. It's holding quite nicely, it's flowing out quite nicely. So that's the result we want to achieve. So now I'm going to spray, so I'm going to put my mask on and I'm going to put the extraction on. Here's my mask. I gather that Boris wants us to use these when we're going to Lidl in the future. If you have a more intricate piece to spray and you need to pass the item far more times, then the transfer efficiency of the air-assisted airless is going to make that difficult. we're already at a very small nozzle size, so we need to find another way of further reducing the amount of product getting onto the amount of lacquer getting onto the product. And there is a way to do that with an air-assisted airless pump, which I'm going to show you now. In my normal setup, I've got a certain amount of pressure spraying the fluid through the system. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to reduce that pressure. So I have no nozzle on the gun at the moment. Just to show you, this is forcing lacquer out at a very high rate. Loads of stuff coming out. So if I now take the fluid pressure completely off, I'll take all the pressures down. And now I've got very low pressure, in fact none. If I take the fluid pressure up very slightly just to get a flow through the pump, so you can hear the pump working, a little bit of pressure coming through. Oh. Now what I'm going to do, put my air cap nozzle on, and at this fluid pressure we're not going to get a very impressive spray pattern. More or less just a bit of liquid coming out the end of the nozzle. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to increase the air assistance, and this will effectively become a conventional pump which is using air to atomise the product rather than using airless to force it out the small tip. So I'll have to go over to the booth to show you this now. I've put the air assistance right up on there. What I'll do now is I'll use that effectively conventional spray to spray this piece. I'll put my mask on so I won't be talking then, but you'll see how easy it is to control because there's nowhere near the amount of lacquer being delivered. This is just for the purposes of this video. I'm going to talk to you now without the mask on so that you can hear what I'm saying. So I'm not going to be, I wouldn't recommend that we did this for very long, but we have got the extraction. Put the extraction on. So now I have this very low fluid pressure, giving me no spray pattern. On a Weaver you can adjust the air assistance at the gun, so I've already put it up at the pump. Now I've got air assistance, and now I've got a spray pattern, and that is a conventional spray pattern. There's a couple more things I wanted to go through today while I've got your attention. I still hope I have got your attention. It's getting to that time of year when drying conditions are crucial or critical. The colder weather's coming in and we're going to find it harder to dry waterborne lacquers at this time of year. So the things to remember, they're pretty simple. You want reasonable temperature, as good as you can get, but don't go too high. And you want very good air movement because you want to remove humid air from your drying area. So the best air movement you can get, the better. And you want to have reasonable temperature. If the temperature falls too low, the relative humidity in the room is going to raise, and then you're going to get problems with drying because the liquid that is coming off the item is trapped in a high relative humidity atmosphere and a humid atmosphere, and it can't dry out. It's a bit like the principle of washing on a line dries better on a windy day than it does on a humid day. We all know that from our own experience at home. What you can do is use something like this to make sure that you're monitoring the humidity and the temperature in your working environment. Today we're at 50% humidity in here and 18, nearly 19 degrees C. Nice reasonable temperature to be spraying at. Slightly lower humidity than we would like in terms of the spray pattern, because the higher the humidity is, the more the paint flows out. But when you want to dry it, you want the humidity down as much as you can really, because the low humidity will help the drying. So this is pretty good drying conditions for this lacquer. This one we just got off the internet, trusty little RH and temperature gauge. It's got a magnet on the back, so you can put it on the wall if you've got metal walls or metal parts in your workshop. Pretty useful device. There's lots of advice on drying on our Ankerstein web shop webpage. Finally, on more words of advice and hopefully wisdom, we do give some pretty simplistic instructions out to our customers if they want them. And we just do these sheets that you can have near your spray booth. They're very straightforward things that most people can understand, but it's good to remind ourselves of these things. Make sure that you stir the paint, make sure that you check the colour. You don't want to spray all over the items then find out the colour was wrong, which it shouldn't be, because we do our best to make sure it isn't before it gets to you. Follow the temperature and humidity guidelines, as I've just mentioned. Make sure that you apply the right wet film thickness. That's something you can measure with one of the wet film gauges. We can supply those as well if required. In winter, check the paint is not too cold before spraying, because I said about winter drying conditions, what will also happen in winter is that your paint will be left overnight in your workshop. It will get cold and it will get thick. If you can warm it up before spraying the next day, it's a really good idea, because it becomes less viscous and runs through the spraying apparatus better. Follow good housekeeping practices. I know that's not always easy, but it's always a good idea. And always read the safety data sheet if you want to know about the relative health and safety issues of using our paints. We can supply you with these, and as always we've got our, well, let's call it bomb-proof packaging. It's only a piece of paper, but we're ready to send it to you whenever you like. So now I'm going to spray, so I'm going to put my mask on and I'm going to put the extraction on. Here's my mask. I gather that Boris wants us to use these when we're going to Lidl in the future.